Finance Committee meeting for the 2009 fiscal year budget hearings to order. Amanda, call the roll.
McTaggart.
Present.
Aug.
Here.
Bills.
Present.
Curtis.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes.
As I stated, I think Kyle's going to be here, but he's going to be a couple minutes late, so he asked me to get it going here. Judge Kinzer was the first one on our schedule. Everybody can see in the front of their book there. We kind of assumed he wasn't probably going to show up because his is pretty cut and dry. I don't think there's anything alarming there. It's in line with what the 2018 budget was, within $370, and I don't know that there's much discussion that needs to be had on it unless anybody has any questions. Probably looks in line with what we were expecting, I guess.
You said it was within how much?
$300, $370.
I must be looking, wait a minute.
That's
the actual, okay.
Oh yeah, there's
Gotcha,
forecast,
all right.
sorry.
Okay.
Of last year's budget, sorry.
But I'm looking down the wrong line, sorry.
Oh, and that note I had last year, he said he had 3 murder trials.
It looks like this. Do we know why the library is so high?
He didn't make note of that.
Okay. It looks like they just took the, I'm looking at the 2018 forecast, and it looks like obviously the library cost was much higher than what we have in the budget, but for the most part, it's offset by the court services and special attorney hire, so not quite sure what led to that, but it looks like what he's proposing for the budget for next year is back in line with what the budget was for this year.
That's very true, that's what I see.
That's about the only thing that stands out on the page to me, but we might send them a note just to understand that better for the current year, but I think the 2019 looks, I guess, like we had expected. Anybody else?
I imagine it's very hard for him to budget. I can see he runs over, but he doesn't know what's going to happen during the year.
Sure. Okay. Juror fees and boarding of jurors. Looks like he's projecting we'll go over for 2018. I'm guessing a lot of that just has to do with the caseload.
Does that include the jury salaries? That's the jury fee, is that what it is?
Are you looking at the forecast?
Well,
or are you looking
yeah,
at...
but I guess
Okay.
just in general, but the juror fees is what we pay the jurors for coming, correct? Yeah.
Right.
Didn't the law go into effect, we had to raise that some? Or was
What's
that
that?
over a year ago? They raised the fees for jurors.
That I don't know.
I thought they did.
Don't know.
Has that been longer than a year? They raised the jury fee?
It went up, but it went back down again, is what I recall.
Really? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm guessing that just depends on the caseload, so probably the best guess he has. The law library. Does anybody know about this transfer to the general fund, or when that's supposed to occur this year?
I think that just happens before the end of the
The end of the
budget
year,
year.
okay.
And the forecast, those numbers I entered as of June 30th.
Okay,
So the year-to-date actual and then the 2018 forecast, those are all numbers that I entered as of June 30th.
okay. Okay, then that's probably in line with where it should be. I guess any other things we might want to ask him about other than that the library
The
on that first page?
That little fluctuation.
Yeah, that fluctuation, just to understand that maybe a little bit better for 2018, but
So just the law library, that's
I
the
think
only
so.
one? Okay.
Yeah, on the first one, the 230 courts ones, yeah. But that's really a 2018 issue. Let's just make sure it's not going to be something that happens in 2019 that we need to understand.
And it's really the forecast part of it. So maybe it
Yeah.
got banked hard, most of it, maybe the fees all hit early in the year or so. Because the actual's pretty much close to where it ought to be.
Yeah. Probably just need to ask them just to make sure that there's no impacts for next year. Anything that we need to understand on that. Or I guess just understand why it's so different compared to the budget. I guess that's it with him. We'll move to the sheriff.
Good morning.
Morning.
That 110 general fund, that's, those 20-some line items are my general budget. There's an increase of about 3.5%. I'm going to hit a few highlights, and then if anybody has any questions. The second line down, administrative assistant salary. Let me give you a little history here. Going back until, I think, about 2007, there were 2 full-time clerks in the sheriff's office, or administrative assistants, I guess we should call them. They're union-exempt positions. They serve at the, I guess, pleasure of the sheriff, if that's the term to use. They do all of the report filing, copying. They take care of all the process serving, which is subpoenas, any court documents that need to be served, any attorneys that send us documents for court that need to be served. They also take care of all the arrestee jackets, the juvenile jackets. So every day there's always something for them to do. In 2007, in order to save some money, 911 had a assistant 911 coordinator that spent 12 hours a week at the sheriff's office doing a lot of this administrative stuff, which we paid $10,000. We reimbursed 911 $10,000 for those 12 hours. That ceased, I guess, last year. So there's just one person there now. That person has indicated to me that the soonest would be 12 months, the latest would be 16 months, will be retiring. She's been there since 2001, and she's either going to be leaving in July of 19 or December of 19. She hasn't made that exact decision yet. So what I would like to do is, where that $65,000 comes from on the employee information list, the current administrative assistant is at $36,113. The one that I would like to hire, which would be at $29,120. That's going to do 2 things. One, that's going to give me the ability to, after December 1st, have minimum 7 months, maximum 12 months to get that person trained and comfortable and ready to take over when the current administrative assistant leaves. And it's going to desperately help out right now when we get, when we get inundated with, especially civil process stuff. that kind of takes a priority because those have dates that they have to be served and have to be out there for the deputies to serve. So sometimes the arrest jackets, the bookend information, the filing of incident, accident, tow, and offense reports gets delayed and starts to pile up, and then eventually it just comes a day where that's all that the person is going to have to do is to catch up on the filing part of it. Not to mention the current employee has 4 weeks of vacation. So there's 4 weeks out of the year that I don't have an administrative assistant in the office to handle those filings and such. So that was the first thing you'll notice on that, on my main budget. One of the things I want to bring up is the gas and mileage, which is 61,030. There's 40,000 budgeted for it this year. In the past couple years, due to the run from actually prior to 2013, but we were spending in the $60,000, sometimes $70,000 a year on fuel. So we budgeted that in 17 and in 18. Well, the price of fuel was down from those years. So that came down. I just took a 5-year average on that because it is higher now where it was last year this time, and that's where the 52,000 came up. The other thing that my question is on service contracts, which is 65,575. We're going to leave that at 25,500. This year it's going to get blown up. I think we're already at about 38,000. We're about 13 over on that, and that's because of the snow plowing. The snow plowing, I think, cost us quite a bit more than what finance and management thought it was going to cost. I'm leaving that the same because I understand there may be the possibility, or there will be the possibility, that our maintenance supervisor will be spreading the salt, so that's something that we can control. We do have the equipment. I had him check. We've got a salt spreader that goes on the back of the pickup from the highway department back when we used to plow our own snow and put salt down. He got it up and running, so it is working, so he will be able to use that to spread salt in the parking lots, and then we've got the walk-behind spreader that he can use for the sidewalk. So unless management or finance thinks that the cost for snow removal is going to be more or similar to what it is this year, then we'll have to increase that. But if not, I'm comfortable with that number. I've talked with Chris about it. We should be able to be somewhat close for that. The other two things under household supplies will stay the same, and maintenance and repairs will also stay the same. Chris and I looked at that, what projects for the courthouse and the jail, which there aren't any major projects. There's no capital expense projects lined up for either one of those two buildings, so it's just going to basically be general maintenance, and we don't see any need for an increase in any of those line items. So that being said, you can see the difference of roughly 60,000, which, like I said, is about a 3.5% increase over the 18 budget. I'm not for sure. I just got the 7 months expense and revenue and expense for the sheriff's office, and we're right on line to be right at that 1.792 million, pending any collapse of any of the services that we have to provide in the next 4 months. On that, go ahead.
Maybe I'm just crossing lines here, but the sergeant and lieutenant salary, why is that drop so much? from last year's budget of 234 down to 168 for,
Well, that shouldn't be, it should be the 245.19. Do people see that? Well, the one, then maybe some of these numbers aren't making sense that I'm talking to you about. Is the 52,000 there for gas?
yes.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think everything you spoke about was
the sergeant and lieutenants, well, actually, let me do the administrative assistant. I don't know what you folks have for it, but it should be 65,233.
I know that one's not including the second position, I noticed that.
It's what?
Yeah.
That one's not.
I see it on
Yeah.
the next page, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, we got a 36 on 12.
If you want, and then you go make copies of this real quick.
I
Well,
wonder if
actually,
it's not including the formula over on the second page.
Let me go make
Do you want me
copies
to
of
go,
this real
I can just print
yeah,
it.
whatever.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
we got a 36 on a 30, so yeah, we got 66. It's on 2 lines on the back
But on
page.
his sheet, it's
Yeah.
They're highlighted back there.
Well, it's a,
One of them is.
I think there's only one account code, stick it in for the actual budget sheet.
Mike,
Yes.
what about the chiller in the courthouse? He said he doesn't have any capital expenditures.
Yeah, I'll ask him about that. Sorry, I was just trying to reconcile these other things. But
This is the one that gets the...
Budget for overtime. That's
I know what it is, but that's, wow,
that's a Airmark.
they're expensive.
You ain't shit. I threw them out.
That's Darren.
No, you can, you go ahead, have a seat there, I can stand and call.
Is there a binder down there, Amanda? Oh, sorry about my tardiness.
Here is here's the one that... This is that top sheet, which is the, so, for sergeants and lieutenants, it goes from 234 to 240. Merit deputy salaries, there's only about less than $1,000 increase. The biggest reason of that is I had a 28-year employee retire in February, and his salary was budgeted for the entire year. And the person that was hired to replace him, it was about a $25,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 savings there. And then corrections from 539 up to 556. So that, when you look at the 19 budget proposal, 1.856, and it was 1792 this year, with noticeable increases, it'd be 12,000 for fuel, and then the roughly 20,000. There's 45,405 budgeted for administrative assistant, and that's going to go to, the request is 65,233. So those are the two big increases on this. The increase for FOP is already set by the contract. They get 2.5%. Some of them that hit their steps get an additional whatever that step increase is. And then corrections, they get a 2.5% December 1, and then at their anniversary date they get 2% increase based on their contract.
What, I guess two things. Tell you, that temporary administrative assistant, can you tell me that one more time? How long you were gonna hire the fill-in, I guess,
What I'd like to
go
do
through that
is-
timeline again.
Ideally, I would like to have 2 people there because the amount of, I'm going to say, paperwork that comes through, every item of paper that the sheriff's office generates comes across their desk. Reports, arrests, they also do the initial reconciliation for the accounts that we have, the sheriff's sale account and the excess fee account, which then I review and sign off on, but they handle that as well. And then, of course, any court documents, any warrants, subpoenas, notice to appears, summonses that the courts send the sheriff to serve or that attorneys send the sheriff to serve, all crosses their desk and gets entered into their computers and put in the correct places, that whether it's something the deputies need to serve or whether it's the state reports that are filed for Department of Corrections, whatever paperwork comes through goes through them. I would like to have a person, like I said, come December 1, that would be a minimum 7 months before the retirement could happen, or it could be up to a year. But I also have that current administrative assistant is off 4 weeks out of the year on vacations, that I don't have anybody in the office to handle any of that paperwork for those 4 weeks. I know in the past there's been the concept of maybe sharing people from department to department, which cross-training people, which is fine. Sometimes we run into a little problem with union representation and job description, and also just the fact of someone who maybe every 3 months is going to have to work there for a week and cover that stuff, and are they going to stay up on it, or is it going to be a continual retraining on those things? So ideally, I would like to have 2 people in there.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, this will give me the ability to get somebody hired and get enough training under their belt that when the current administrative assistant retires, I don't have to try and get that person trained in 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Okay. And what was the old situation? Why did it stop?
911 had a administrator, had a coordinator and an assistant coordinator. The assistant coordinator was 12 hours out of the week would work in the sheriff's office. It was a very nice arrangement because a lot of the things everything that we do at the sheriff's office is connected to 911 in that the software. We have EnterCAD, which dispatch uses, which my deputies use. We have EnterSlam, which is the bookend software for everybody that we book in, and then we have the civil process side of it as well, which is through Emergitech, and all 3 of those can basically be tied together. So the assistant coordinator was familiar with all of that software and programming to begin with, so when those 12 hours out of the week she would come to the sheriff's office, already knew what was what and where things had to be entered and where things had to go. So it worked out well. And then there was also the agreement that when the vacation days that my full-time administrative assistant would take, the 911 board allowed the assistant 911 coordinator to be over at the sheriff's office on those days. So it worked extremely well. But like I said, since last September, we haven't had that agreement or that situation, so.
Okay.
That next page is the...
One second, one more.
Go ahead.
What about is it the chiller or whatever?
When I sat down and Chris showed me the spreadsheet that management had come up with for long-term capital improvements, and they have nothing down for next year. I don't believe the chiller replacement, if you want to call that, is going to be near what it was first estimated to be. And I think we also have to wait I think it's kind of up in the air if there's the group that's going to come in and redo everything to make us more energy efficient, if there's the availability to have that replaced at the same time where it's paid back over time, or so when we looked at the long-term capital improvement plan, there was nothing. I think in 2020 they had, either 2020 or 2021, they had the north parking lot and sheriff's parking lot getting resurfaced. But other than that, did not see any projects on there for the courthouse and or jail.
I'm having a hard time pulling it up on my phone, and I should have printed it off, but I'm not sure what management has, and you're probably right, but I know like before Anita left and stuff, we had kind of a capital plan we were working through and stuff, and I can't remember if it was in 2019. Was it in 2019? Is that what I said last Friday?
I know when
I think we had something,
when
from
Chris
a financial
comes in,
perspective,
he's got the printout.
we had something in there for 2019. Whether we have the money is a different story, but I think the reason why is that there is some kind of, was there, the R-22's going to be, there was
Phased
something
out.
phased out, and
And
there was
become more
a
expensive.
reason why we needed to get
Yes.
it done, I thought. It wasn't 100%.
It has to do with the function of the equipment too.
Yes, there are some, and I not to speak on Chris's behalf because I'm sure he's going to bring it up when he comes in.
Sure.
But there are, that system. I mean, the motherboard, so to speak, if you want to use that term, that runs it. I mean, if that goes down, they're going to have to, until it gets replaced, they're going to have to find somewhere to find one to try and retro it in there, which, numbers thrown around a bit, $20,000, $30,000 just for that motherboard to keep that system going. But I was under the understanding that possibly with this energy efficient thing that's going on,
Yeah.
that chiller may fall under that as well. So, if that would be a thing where that group pays for it and we pay for it over time, I have no
Yeah.
idea. I haven't sat into those.
I guess I don't
discussions.
necessarily care, I don't want to spend money, but I just don't want it to fall through the cracks that
Sure.
we forget about this
No,
thing.
it was
It's-
brought up.
Okay, okay, yep.
And that's on their
Plan,
top
yep.
list.
Okay, good.
Things.
I guess that's all that really matters, but I think, anybody else have questions on that first page?
I have one question for you.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the diet. Is there another company that can?
There are, but when we do the RFPs, or actually that's how we've done it lately, the RFPs, Aramark usually comes in the best, and lately has been the only one putting in for it, just because they're already in Champaign and Ford County, and some of these outside vendors, they look at, we don't have a lot of, they tend to want jails that are going to have 200, 300, 500 people, because they have to, they hire the cooks, they take care of the food purchasing and all that, and they charge us per meal. And my guess is when we don't get a lot of interest in it is because our numbers are just too low, and with Aramark already being in Champaign and Ford County, because there's a lot of times we'll have cooks from those jails that come up here to cook as well, so, but even at that, again, a quick history, the county used to employ 2 full-time cooks,
Right.
and by the time you had their salaries, their benefits, the groceries that we had to buy and all that, I think we stopped in 2006, and it was over $100,000 back in 2006 that it was costing. So we're still 29,000 or whatever
Under.
below where it was 12 years ago.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
That gas and oil,
Yes.
so I'm looking at the year-to-date, and I assume that's through June, Amanda? And I realize prices are up and all those kind of things, but she has in here 23,120 for the end of June.
Yeah, we just had a BP missed us on 2. They want to go paperless now, so their emails that they were sending us on the statements were not being delivered. So I think they just cut a check. The county just cut a check for almost $8,000 for the month of July for 2 BP bills. So that
Okay. That was for the month of July or for?
well, no, that was actually
Like-
that was 2 statements. So that was, I would imagine,
Like for,
probably May and June.
okay. Okay. We probably need to look at that.
Yeah.
Just make sure we're clear on that, because if that's the case, that would put us in that 50, whatever, close to what you have. But I was just doing it off of what had been
Sure.
booked, and it was, we were down quite a, or it was quite a bit less,
Yes.
so that's what I was.
No, it was, and
The run rate was at least of.
I looked at that as well, and what was interesting was we went to use the BP cards, and they wouldn't allow, so when I called, they said, well, you've missed 2 statements, and then by the time we got it figured out that they weren't sending the statements to the correct email address, they sent it to us correctly. We got the check cut, and I overnighted the check to them, so, yeah, well, and like I said, our calls for service have been up, so I know they're consuming more fuel right now than we had probably last year this time. The court security, basically it's a wash. Those fees get collected when the people have the money to pay them, so sometimes it comes in bunches, and other times it's pretty lean, but roughly $40,050 is what I'm looking at, projected to come in next year, and $39,987 going out. So the court security DUI expenses, those are paid through DUI fees that we collect, and we pay the radar unit fees. We lease the radar units, and we get monthly invoice for them, and we pay those out of the DUI funds that we collect. I think right now we're running about $30,000 in the court security line item. I think we're running about a $30,000 cushion there, I guess, if you want to call it. I did not put anything in for capital improvements for court security. We updated the metal detector probably 4 years ago. I'm going to say 4 or 5. The X-ray machine is still the original one from '98. It still passes inspection every year that the state comes in. But at some point, whether that's in the next 4 years or after, I'm sure something's going to have to be done with that, and I don't imagine it'll be a cheap piece of equipment. So if we can continue to add a little bit into that court security fund, that'll help offset any costs of replacing that machine.
Sure. At the one time, we threw around the idea of bulletproof glass in
Yeah.
the entryway.
Yeah.
Anything been done about that?
No, it hasn't, and right now that's not on a priority expense for us. I guess if the county comes into a windfall of money and we got time to get it done, but it's not, for my request for what the office needs, and the deputies and corrections needs, it's probably not in the top 10. That next sheet after court security, what I've got here is the employee information. That just shows the increases. You'll see on there that the very far right column is the percent of the increase. Most of the time corrections gets 4.5% because of their step and the 2.5% or whatever they get come December 1. There's two of them on there that's a little bigger increase because their steps are for the first, I think it's 3 years. They get hired, then first year, second year, they get a little bigger increase, and that was done years ago to keep people that we hired. We kind of had a reputation for a while of hiring people. They went to the academy, they stayed a few months, and then they went somewhere else for more money. So luckily, our corrections has been pretty stable over the last 7, 8, 9 years. And we haven't had that mass exodus for higher paying wages. That shows that. You'll see on there for the maintenance supervisor, Chris Drake, there's a 2% raise. Goes from 44,571 to 45,463. And then also for court security, there's a 2% raise. On there as well. So, and then Yvonne, who's housekeeping, her salary goes up accordingly to whatever the ASME contract is. So there's about a $700 raise there for her as well.
She works 40 hours?
Yes. Yeah, she's a 40-hour-a-week employee. Capital improvement, 110,715. Oh, it might be, here it is, right here. Nobody's fallen out of their chair yet, so 235,000. My thinking on this was that well, let me digress a minute. I have not asked for new personnel underneath this budget for a couple reasons. One is I know that the current public safety fund was used to pay the agreement with the dispatchers. Secondly, we desperately need equipment updates, and I'm going to go over that real quick. Additional personnel would be great, we'd love it, but we would still need these updates that I'm talking about equipment-wise if we hire more people or if we don't hire more people. So I'm looking at, come December 1, what monies are in or coming available through public safety to take care of some of these equipment updates, and then if later on, budget year 2019, or fiscal year 2019, monies are there, I'll sit down and talk with finance and we'll see if there can be additional staff added, which, like I said, is also desperately needed. But that 235,000, what it breaks down to is, I would like to replace 3 vehicles this next coming year. The Chevy Impalas are no longer being made. Those were the cheapest ones on the block. We could buy one, equip it, mark it, all that, have it ready to go for about $25,000. They're no longer available, and so there is a state bid on Tahoes. I've looked at that. The nice thing about the Tahoes, well, there's several nice things about the Tahoes. One is they're They're bigger, they're four-wheel drive, they can get us places that we need to go. You know, most days, somebody from the sheriff's office has to get somewhere where the car's not going to get them. A bigger vehicle may possibly get them, but at the last resort, we just get out and we walk to where we need to go to. If that's up a lane, through a ditch, whatever the case may be. The Tahoes are going to sit up higher, they're going to be better in the wintertime for us, and they have a higher resale value. When we get rid of an Impala after 2 to 3 years that's got 160 to 170,000 on it with a lot of engine hours, taxi companies used to buy them from us, now they don't because Uber and Lyft and all that is so big that I think taxi companies are hurting. And if dealerships bought them back to sell as used, we'd get anywhere from $1,800 to $2,300 per vehicle. With the Tahoes, my anticipation is they're going to run longer. We're going to probably at least get a full 3 years out of them. And even at that, with some of these 4x4s that are 3 years old with 180 to 200,000 on them, you look online and people are still getting $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 on trade-ins on them. So 3 Tahoes at $37,000 is what the state bid is. That comes to $111,000. The equipment to go in, we're going to have to get different equipment because we're moving stuff from a car to a SUV. It's going to be about $10,000 per vehicle. That's going to be 2 cages. It's going to be light bar. It's going to be console. It's going to be the markings on it. It's going to be all of that stuff. So that's $30,000. The mobile data computers is what we use. In the squad cars, they're connected through leads, through iWin, and ours right now are pushing, well, they're 10 years old. They're probably, I think 2008 is when we got them. They're the ones that are on the CDMA 3G Verizon, which in 2019 Verizon, at some point, whether it's middle of the year, end of the year, is no longer going to support that. It's got to be LTE or 4G. The state bid on those right now are $5,200 a piece. We would need 10 of them, so that's $52,000. That includes the docking station, all the software, all the setup. That's everything for them, $5,200 a unit. And when you look at the ones we have now, we've gotten 10 years of use from them. Portable radios, I've got a bid for digital portable radios, 16 of them at $800, that's $12,800. The live scan, which is the fingerprint machine in the jail, which I can no longer get service agreements on because the manufacturer does not support not only the software anymore or the machine itself. That's $25,000. And then the one thing I forgot, in addition to the equipment for the Tahoes, the mobile radios, which are their 110-watt mobile radio, which goes in the console in the squad car, those are $2,000 a piece, so 3 of them would be $6,000. We also have bulletproof vest replacement due to come up in 2019. I haven't put that in the budget because I'm hoping between the other public safety, what we're collecting for book-in fees and this and that I can use those funds along with applying for a bulletproof vest grant, which we've gotten 2 of those in the past. I'm hoping between that and what we have in the book-in fees, I can hopefully get the vests purchased. Bulletproof vests are warranted for 5 years. They're right now running about $800 a vest, so we'd be looking at 13 of those initially. So that's the capital improvement request.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Getting back to your radios and things like that, and 911 is in a upgrading situation. There might be some grant money that could be curtailed with yours and mine, 911 together.
There could be, and I would have to sit down with Eric and look at some of those. I know the current portables we have right now, we got on a grant through ILEAS. So, yeah, any of these outside of the vehicles, the fingerprint machine, the radios, the bulletproof vests, that stuff, I always look if there's any availability of grants.
Yeah, because I always keep Eric hopefully looking for grants, and
Yes,
if we could get grants together,
yes,
far the better. If we don't, it'd be worse if one of us missed it, and then...
absolutely. Yeah, so that's always a possibility. For those electronic, I guess, requests, even the mobile data computers, we're constantly looking for any monies available, grant monies available out there to help offset those costs.
We'll help you out if we can, and you help us out.
Okay. Well, I'm running over here, so I'll hit these real quick. The Public Safety Fund, which is the 310-210, about 9,000. That fluctuates. That depends on how many people are arrested by outside agencies, excluding the Illinois State Police. The one after that I've got is the Police Vehicle Fund. I think it's $5 from every traffic conviction goes into that. So we don't get a lot each year in that. I think right now we're currently at about $6,000 or $7,000 in there. The e-citation fee, you can just, that's something that's a fee that's collected that eventually the courts are going to require we go paperless, to where in the squad cars they have the computers, a citation computer that will immediately transmit the ticket that's written to the circuit clerk's office. But again, we only collect about $20 to $30 a month off of that, so it's going to be a long time before there's enough money in there to purchase that for the squad cars. Arrestee Medical Fund, we can charge arrestees their medical expenses. We do collect some money over time. Sometimes it's $5 a month from some of these folks, but we do collect it. I don't believe we've used any of that money yet this year to pay medical costs, because that's in my general fund line items. But I think there's around 6,000 or so in there right now, because nothing's been taken out of it. A couple of years ago we got hit real hard where we had like 16 or 18,000 in medical expenses. And then the drug abuse is monies that we collect from drug investigations where assets are seized. The courts, there's a hearing on it, the courts determine whether or not we get those assets, and if so, then we end up getting 65% of the asset. 10% goes to the state police, 12.5% to the circuit court, and 12.5% to the state's attorney's office.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Next is Chris.
All right, Chris.
How are you guys today?
Okay.
What, is there anything in particular you'd like to start with here? Anything right in front of you? The admin maybe?
Yeah, we have the admin one here in front of us. So.
Let's do that. Right off the bat, let's talk about the service contracts. Obviously, you all know what happened with the snow removal and the salt and all of that this year. Last year, we substantially raised those service contracts. Over here, we went from, what, $17,000 all the way up to $23,500. And over at the courthouse, to, anyway, oh, I'm jumping ahead of myself. My point in this is, if we can do something different with snow removal, which I think the plan is this year, as far as salting and whatnot, and, you know, getting other contractors in to bid this, I think that 23.5, I mean, that probably would have been just fine had we not taken that big hit. This month, actually last month, we went over budget at the admin building for service contracts. And after the claims go through for July, we're going to be over budget at the courthouse and jail for service contracts. So, at 23.5, probably leave it the same, I would guess. I don't know if that's a gamble, but I hate to instantly just say, yeah, let's try to jack that up again, and then I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
So we should know what the lawn care is, right, for the next 2-3 years?
I do know what lawn care is, and we're getting a pretty good price on the lawn care. I've written down, well, snow removal was $36,800 this year. And more than half of that was salt.
I was gonna say, that includes salt, though.
Yeah, more than half of that.
That was-
Much more than that was salt.
That was the gimmick.
It was, the contract was like $3,800 a month, and that was for 5 months. And then everything after that was the salt.
I guess, it sounds like management's, you guys have been talking about having Chris do it.
Yeah, we don't have salt in the new contract,
Right. Right,
just plowing.
right. And do we know what we can buy it for, or what we're thinking, how that would work?
I have some calls out for prices of salt. The thing of it is, it would have to be sold in bags. We can't just have someone come and dump salt somewhere, you know, in the maintenance shed or something. But we do have a working spreader. It fits on the reese hitch of the truck that we do have for the maintenance department. So that's something I'm willing to try. Which I think, regardless of what the cost of the salt's going to be, I think it's going to be an immense savings.
Yeah.
And it has to.
Yeah. I would think so.
I think it's a positive thing because I think you can control the delivery and find the squeaky wheels. But there's always squeaky wheels. There's a slick spot here or there, and that's the biggest thing, I think. What creates the salt problem, you know, especially when you deal with weather issues that people need to adjust how they get to work and how they get in a building.
Right.
And that's the bottom line.
I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, when the bids go out, it's just going to be for plowing and the sidewalks, snow removal, and no salt at all, so.
So bring that control back in-house, and I think you'll have a lot better chance.
It sure helps.
Yeah, because it's all dancing with so-called liability exposure. And the contractor, when you got an outside contractor, he's going to cover his butt.
I guess just looking back over history, and I know it obviously varies back based on how much snow we actually get, but I just was wondering if there's a way where we can get it down from even that number, because if you look in the 3-4 years before that, it seemed like we were even below that number, but I don't know.
For the service contracts?
Yeah.
Didn't we go way over budget last year as well?
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, that was a whole...
Yeah.
Well, you're contracted, they're just gonna salt when they get down it, and that's it, no matter whether you need it or not, in many cases.
Service contracts consists of snow removal, mowing, fire marshal has to inspect the boilers and the elevators, Otis Elevator gets, they do the fire alarms, the extinguishers, and the kitchen. Metro Power does the generators, Angel Pest Control, the roof, we have a service contract with them to come inspect once a year, and Hiltz has to pump out And that's more of a bi-monthly, or every other month rather, there's a septic tank outside the jail that they have to pump out, so there is a lot that comes out of there.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can avoid the problem from this year at least.
I'd like to give it a shot. Let's see.
What about, I guess, all these, the telephone, electricity, water, do we supply those, or that's an allocation, or?
That is something that I've
We
never
thought
done.
we thought maybe management should, when we talked, that maybe management should talk about those,
Yeah,
or,
that's something
We
I've
didn't-
never dealt with.
yeah,
Okay.
we didn't really know what to do with those.
Maintenance and repairs, over here and courthouse and jail, I'm doing really well with my budgets this year. I'd like to leave that at 20 if possible. No changes there. The only small change is household supplies. Last year I requested that it be upped by 1,000 over the courthouse and jail, and that was granted, but it was reduced by 1,000 over here. Went from 6 to 5, and I've already been through, well, I have 38% of my budget remaining over here, so if it would be possible to up that maybe to 6 again, maybe go up 1,000 from 5 to 6. We have 50 plus employees over here, and 50 plus over there, plus inmates, and that's not to mention the public coming in and out, and we go through a lot of stuff. And then the population of jail can fluctuate, by such a large amount. And I do get good prices. I'm a little bit frugal with how I distribute stuff, and might irritate people sometimes, but it's not like we're splurging on supplies, and buying a Charmin or something.
Yeah.
But if that'd be possible, that would be something I think would help out. Because over at the other building, I still have over 50% of that remaining.
Okay. What was going back in history, why, the maintenance costs and stuff, do you remember why those were so high there back in 15, 14, 13, or?
I think they've moved some things around on what buildings were getting taken care of and who was taking care of what in what building, and I think if you look, there's other places where it's highs and lows too, because we got shifted around over the years.
Okay.
And that's going by quickie recall,
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of issues. Because originally, it was all taken care of by Joe Matthew, and then when there was some issues that come down, he said, well, if you guys want that building, you can have that building, and Eldon come in, he got totally broke down separately, and so there's been a lot of jockeying between the two buildings, and it's back underneath one control now, which is probably a positive thing.
What about, I don't know, did we have another one for him, or is that?
Jail courthouse, and also have the capital improvement.
I only got this from you.
Yeah. Did you go over the?
I went over the jail, the courthouse
Yeah.
and jail, I went over service contract,
Okay.
supplies and maintenance, yes.
Okay. So then that's.
What about that? And you weren't in here when we talked about that. It sounds like it's probably part of the energy savings thing, but I was just saying that I think from a finance committee, the last capital projection I had, and I can pass it to whoever's in management or whatever, that we were talking about, or kind of had, at least what I had in my mind of what we had coming down the pipeline for capital was that chiller.
But it's for 2020, correct?
But was that when it was? Okay.
It's 2020, and that's where there's sort of a gray area here now with this Smart Walk coming in. That may or may not be a project that they're going to tackle here. They're going to start an investment grade audit actually this Thursday, and I don't know how far that's going to progress or whatever, but that's something that may be part of their project that they're going to do here.
Okay.
I don't know yet. That's something that needs to be discussed with the management committee and, the full board and whatnot. But anyway, yeah, that is $325 for 2020 for the chiller over there.
And I explained to them, Chris, is there anything that they have on that sheet for capital improvements for the jail or courthouse for 19?
Nope. Yeah, there's nothing on there for next year. One thing I do want to bring out to you guys, though, is Langlois inspects the roof of the courthouse every year. And for 2 years now, they've been telling me 3 to 5 years. They said it last year, and then they said it this year. And when he inspects it, there are a half dozen patches he has to do. It's still in decent shape, but he says, like I said, 2 years in a row now, he said 3 to 5 years. And he's hesitant to try to throw a number at me because of there's so many variables with that roof. It's been on there over 20 years. He tear it off, and he's explaining to me that what's underneath is the big issue. He said you may have to start replacing a bunch of underlayment there. He said you may tear off that rubber roof, and it's pristine, and you just slap new one on. But if and when it comes down to putting that on the capital improvement here, I can have some people come in, make them give me a more definite number, so we can have some numbers to work with.
I personally would rather at least get it on our radar, because if we, even if it's 3 years from now, it's better to know now
Absolutely.
than not, would be my personal feeling. But if we can get somebody to give us an estimate,
That roof is, it's bigger than the courthouse, or than the jail, and I think when we did the jail through, it's the 3rd year now it's been on, it was roughly about 70,000, I think. So there's a little more square footage there. It's the same type of roof, rubber roof, so you're probably, I'm guessing, looking at 6 figures at the most, I would say.
Yeah.
well, I think that'd be a good thing to get a handle on, or at least we need to put it on the list for now and put it at $100,000 or something like that, just as
He'll give us
a
the money.
placeholder somewhere out there in a couple of years or whatever, just so we can start trying to figure out how the heck we're going to pay for it.
I can have this summer some people come in and give bids, or give rough estimates. I don't know when the deadline is for having to have this set in stone, if you were to get something on there in a few years down the road.
If it's not in next year's budget, there's probably no hard deadline, but I think the sooner the better, just so we've got it on the radar. But
Chris, could I ask you, on this maintenance where they have to come back and patch, is it always in the same particular spot?
It's different every time.
Different
I'd say every time. It's been 2 times since I've been here, because I've only been here a little over a year and a half, but no, it's different areas. And there is an area in the past, the gentleman didn't know when it was, but there's a clear area where there's maybe a quarter of that roof. It's on the southwest corner where that whole section had been replaced. And you go up on the roof and it's obvious it's newer rubber. He was talking to me and showing me that, so I don't know if any of you remember in the past there was some issue with the...
Yeah, there was some leakage coming down through the state attorney's office and that, I think the law library, and
That would have been where that is.
that would have been, I'm going to say, probably 12 years, at least 10, 12 years ago.
Okay. But no, it is in different spots these past 2 years. And there is some of it that's starting to lift a little bit. You go up on a really windy day and there's a little bit that is moving around, so. It is definitely something I agree we probably should get on here in the future. The heat pumps line that's on here, I've done one this year, and that's actually the one for this room. It didn't use up even half of the 20 that were budgeted here, and so I still have, well, it's like 11,000 something if we were to have to do another one. So I don't know if you want to keep that 20, because the heat pumps are also another thing that the Smart Watt is going to look at. So it's kind of a gray area there as well.
sorry.
Do we say it again?
Yes, say it again.
The heat pumps on the capital improvement here, the 20,000 that we had budgeted.
Yes.
I've used I replaced one heat pump. It was a fairly large one. It was actually the one for in here.
Yeah.
And I still have just under 12,000 if I were to have to do another one this year. But I don't know if you want to keep that 20 right now because the whole smart watt thing potentially coming in, the heat pumps are something they're going to look at as well over here.
When is all that supposed to be?
They start this Thursday.
They start Thursday, and they claimed that the investment audit would take months, a couple of months at least.
I'd just plan like they're not gonna find anything for the time being and do it like we've always done, and
Yeah. I think that's the
if they
wise.
pull a rabbit out of their hat, then great.
Don't expect anything until we get it.
Sounds good to me.
Don't you think? Or
Leave it until
just keep doing it like we've been doing it and
it's.
until, yeah, we get better numbers, that'd be great.
Parking lot, that's pretty much it on the capital improvement. Then, I don't think we need to go over anything for the courthouse and jail. You guys already went over that with Sheriff, I believe.
Yep.
We did.
Okay, unless you have any questions for me, that's all.
I think so. Thank you.
Dale over here.
Hi, Dale.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, I was going to say that the public defender's budget might appear a little bit simpler as I've been listening to everybody go through their various budgets for capital expenses and expected repairs. I was going to say that, but then I got to thinking about it. Even though you may have less material before you, it's really more complicated. The problem is, complications cannot be quantified. Complication is, you see before you, just the only line item is wages, income. However, I and my associates each are independent businesses. What we cannot quantify, what we cannot put before you, is our capital cost, our repair cost, our labor cost. Actually, we, the public defenders, subsidize the county. Out of that budget, we subsidize the county by providing office space, by providing some labor that we pay for our secretaries, office equipment, supplies, copiers, everything else comes out of that. We took the proportion of that, pretty high. What you see before you is an exaggerated as far as income goes, because to do this fairly, you'd have to take all those other factors out. I'm sure you folks are very conscious of the taxes you pay. Have you ever heard the thing that by the time you take the taxes out, you don't start making any money till well after tax day has passed? I think it's in April sometime before you're in $1 after you take the taxes out. Well, by the time I take my rent out, my secretary's payout, the electricity, the juice, and everything else that goes into running my office, it'll be way past April before I make $1. Because my proportion's well past a quarter, probably 50% of the income I make goes out in expenses. And that's true here too. So the public defenders are and have been underpaid really for a long time. Something new this year, another reason why we deserve an increase. Unfunded state mandates have fallen on us, these individuals that are providing these things. They've had a new law passed that everybody who is arrested is entitled to a bond hearing within 48 hours. That means more bond hearings, first of all. It used to be the judge would set the initial bond. We don't do that anymore. For every arrest we get, we get another bond hearing. Second part of that is 48 hours. Used to be, before the 48-hour requirement was there, we could put those bond hearings off to a regular public defender day out of the courthouse when we were there anyway. That is no longer true. For the public defenders, we have another work day. Somebody's arrested on Friday night, we have to show up for a bond hearing on Sunday morning. We are on call every Sunday now when we didn't used to be. And a lot of those, we have a good police work in the county, they bring a lot of people in for us. And there's a lot of Sundays when we do have to appear, interrupting our weekends. And like I say, every weekend is taken one way or another because somebody has to be on call, which is another good reason to justify the increase we're asking and more. Third thing, two other things I would suggest to you. One, and I've been complaining about this for years. Way back when in your financial crisis, it's been 10 years ago now, I personally took, and the other guys took a proportionate hit, took a hit of $5,000. That was a decrease. That's something most offices did not experience. It has taken 10 years to get that up close to where it was back in 2008. Really, we have not seen an increase in 10 years. We have just made up the loss. Historically, Public Defender's Office was roughly equal to the first Assistant State's Attorney. Once again, I believe that has fallen substantially behind them. And we're no longer being funded at the same level as a prosecution, which isn't fair and is not appropriate. So I think the increases I've asked here are more than justified. Matter of fact, I think it would be easily justified if I had asked 2 or 3 times that much, because the public defenders are in fact that much underpaid. So, thank you all for listening. Did I inspire any questions for anybody? Not a one. Okay.
What's your caseload like, usually?
What's your caseload like? I would say, typically I'm carrying about 100 felonies. That varies in a range 30 either direction. 70 to 130 felonies, which are the major ones. We also have big calls for misdemeanors, and that is probably greater. We also have the juvenile files. Those probably run 50. So it's a heavy caseload. Actually, as far as value on those felonies, if you hired private counsel to pick up a felony out of in this county or Kankakee, they'd ask for a retainer $5,000 to $6,000. Okay. Now you take that times 100, you're talking about $500,000. You get those services for 10% of what they would cost on the private market.
Just curious, how you reference down here stuff about Kankakee County. I guess, how out of line is Iroquois County versus the other counties?
It's hard to compare because they have a public defender, multiple sub-public defenders who are then assigned cases. But one of the things that attract those multiple public defenders in is that they do get the medical insurance, which does make a lot of sense. Frankly, I don't care a lot about that. I hate to admit my age. I am at the age where I have hit Medicare. I used to complain about that a few years ago, but I've now hit that age. I am less concerned. However, my first assistant, Samantha Burns, she is in a situation where she's a private attorney, doesn't have any group, and it does make a heck of a lot of sense. You're a big employer. You have a big group. If you take somebody and add them into that big group, it is a lot cheaper to get medical insurance than you do out in the private market. And that factor is getting worse all the time. So it'd be a great benefit to have that available to attract people in. And just like the deductibility of the health insurance, that's set up where as a tax advantage, it's good to provide that benefit too. If you decided to do that, as I say, I'm on Medicare, so my supplement would be a hell of a lot less than the cost of your usual employee.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you
All
for
right.
explaining.
Thank you all for listening, and hope for your favorable consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Dale. Jim
Out
Devine.
of town, he will not be here today.
Okay. So you got anything exciting?
That's mostly just the basic increases.
Looks like the non-salary line items are all the same with the current budget. And to assistant state's attorney, he's asking for a higher percentage than I think that would be the only thing of note, the percentages on the raises.
The only note I have within this, and usually we hear all about the previous presentation we had, because they do conflict with each other occasionally.
Okay. I guess there's no one to ask, so I don't know if we got any follow-ups for him other than we need to get clear what we're going to do on salaries probably is the main thing, which once we do that, then we'll communicate with Mr. Devine.
Well, I was going to comment about the public defender. Could his staff be included in our insurance? I mean, is that possible?
I don't know how that works.
We can ask Susie at the next meeting. I don't think it'd be a big deal.
I don't think
Probably
so
not.
either.
I don't think it'd be a big deal at all.
I think it'd be a nice gesture.
Yeah, county board members, everybody ought to be able to get in on. Pay out of their pocket, but join the crowd. Yeah, and see, that's the whole thing. Where are you going to stop it at? Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Because it's a true statement, what he did say regarding health insurance. Under the Affordable Health Care Act, it's tough for a small employment group or an individual to buy any type of coverage.
They're forcing.
If you knew how much my family paid in insurance, you'd probably choke.
Well, it's just
Probably right.
my individual.
I'm sure
small group
you're the
program.
same, yeah.
Geez, it's more than what most people spend on transportation.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Okay, who was next?
Top corner.
Let's see, corner.
So he should be here. He's
Are
on-
we ahead or behind here?
We're right on to right now. Right?
I'll catch up here.
10:15.
Corner, all he ever wants is body bags.
Yeah. So
Autopsies.
He was training them with the hospital, remember, to rotate them? Oh, that's okay.
we're going on a little break.
Unless I'm missing something, it looks like his budget's, oh well, I haven't gotten all the way through it, I guess, but
The
County highway coming in this morning.
only questions that he had, and this is, I guess, before he comes in, when you get to the, his automation fund
yes.
and the grants, he said those were numbers that he would talk to Anita about,
Okay.
and she would just ask him, are you purchasing a vehicle this year? Are you doing anything with your grants this year? So he didn't fill anything out this time around because that's just not something he normally did. So when he gets here, I guess we'll discuss that in more detail. I went ahead and printed them out and put them in the book, just so it doesn't get left out.
Yes. Death certificate search grant. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
More people inquiring who died? What is that? Search? Oh, not search. Surcharge?
That's what it is.
390, 615. The coroner death certificate surcharge grant. Yeah, maybe we can take a break. He was supposed to come, it sounds like, so maybe we'll,
Last year he didn't show up when he was supposed to. Last year he didn't show up when he was supposed to.
No, I don't think so either.
He forgot.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want a motion?
and Joel's not here, so he
Tom.
wasn't,
Yeah, there's Joel and then Tom probation also.
well, I guess we make a motion, take a little break, is that fine?
Yeah, why don't we call,
We could make some calls, see if Joel can come over sooner.
revving them all in.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. So we got a motion to, I don't know what we do.
Second.
Or are we gonna pause?
Pause, we take intermission here. Okay, we had a second, Ernie had the motion,